Good morning, everyone. I'm Eliza Joyce Butchong who will be presenting Social and Ethical Concerns of Information Systems Part 2. So, for the learning objectives, Objective 1 analyze the relationship among ethical, social, and political issues that are raised by information systems. 2. Identify the main moral dimensions of an information society and specific principles for conduct that can be used to guide ethical decisions. Third, analyze how the internet and modern information systems have affected preserving personal privacy and intellectual property. Fourth, analyze how the use of information technology has changed daily living. So, this is the part 2, the moral dimensions of information systems. On this part, we will be looking to the five dimensions, which are information rights and obligations, property rights and obligations, accountability and control, system quality and quality of life, and related in the actual world we are into. For the first part, information rights, privacy and freedom in the internet age. So, privacy is the claim of individuals to be left alone, free from surveillance or interference from other individuals or organizations, including the state. One of our rights that is essential for us to be protected with this internet age, with our actions, informations, activities that are not intended to be disclosed without our consent, approval, or permission. This is a claim to keep things from others and remain these activities for ourselves only. When it comes to claim of privacy, it is also involved at the workplace. So one example of this one is the surveillance cameras that are installed around the workplace that are used by business owners to monitor their employees' activity during working hours that will be beneficial to their productivity and efficient use of time and cost. So, information technology and systems threaten individual claims to privacy by making the invasion of privacy cheap, profitable, and effective. So the claim of privacy is protected in the US, Canadian, and German constitutions in a variety of different ways and in other countries through various statutes. Protection for a claim of privacy. In United States, the Fourth Amendment protects the claim of privacy against unreasonable search and seizures of personal documents or home and the guarantee of due process. So, as we can see in the 4-3 privacy laws in the United federal privacy laws in the United States, there are various federal laws that are listed which the United States implemented to protect the claim of privacy in their state. So, for handling information about individuals in such areas as credit reporting, education, financial records, newspaper records, and electronic communications. The Privacy Act of 1974 has been the most important of these laws regulating the federal government's collection, use, and disclosure of information. So at the present, most U.S. federal privacy laws apply only on the federal government and regulate every few areas of the private sector. So here are the some of the US privacy laws. First is the Fair Information Practice. It is a set of principles governing the collection and use of information about individuals. So it is a notion of mutuality of interest between the record holder and the individual. The individual has an interest in engaging in a transaction, and the record keeper, usually a business or a government agency, requires information about the individual supporting the transactions. So it's a mutual interest between the two parties. Once information is gathered, the individual maintains an interest in the record, and the record may not be used to support other activities without the individual's consent. So in fair information practices, it talks about being fair with the information being gathered by the record keeper. So, if the individual who discloses his information disclose such information for a certain transaction only, it will be used or be kept by the record keeper for that transaction only, which serve as a supporting information or document for such transactions. So there should be a fair interest regarding the information, and the record keeper should not go beyond what has agreed upon. Next is the Federal Trade Commission. When it comes to FTC, it is the restated and extended FIP, which provide guidelines to protecting online privacy. So most of the information are scattered online. So Federal Trade Commission expands the fair information practices to protect those informations that are scattered online. So as you can see in table 4.4, Federal Trade Commission Fair Information Practices, there are five principles that are being practiced by the FTC. So first is the notice awareness core principle. Websites must disclose the information practices before collecting data. Includes identification of collector, uses of data, other recipients of data, nature of collection, voluntary or required status, consequences of refusal, and steps taken to protect confidentiality, integrity, and quality of the data. So it is all about the transparency and disclosure of whatever the website is all about, how they collect, how they will use, and how they will store the data that are being collected from the individual. Second is choice or consent, also a core principle. There must be a choice regime in place allowing consumers to choose how the information will be used for secondary purposes other than the supporting transaction, including the internal use and transfer of third parties. So, in the second one, the choice and consent, there should always be the privilege or the option for the individual who owns the information to be informed or to decide whether the information they have provided for the initial transaction shall be used for the other transactions or shall be distributed to other parties that are not originally included in the first transaction. So they have always the say or the authority to decide to allow where and when the information will be used. Third, access participation. So the consumer shall have the capacity to review, contest, and check the completeness of the data, very timely and inexpensive process. So hindi dapat sila makakonsume ng other costs to check their data. Fourth, security. Data collectors must take responsible steps to assure the consumer information is accurate and secure from unauthorized use. So, as a data keeper, data collectors, they have the responsibility to maintain the strong security for the information that has been entrusted to them by the individuals to ensure that it won't leak, it won't be used in unauthorized transaction or illegal transaction or any other usage of information that are not in accordance with what has been agreed by the parties. So they should take the accountability that their security is strong and no information will be used in the means that are not allowed by the information provider. Enforcement, there must always be a place, a mechanism to enforce FIP principles. So since FTC expands the FIP, the fairness principle of FIP should always be enforced. This can involve self-regulation, legislation, giving consumers legal remedies for violations, and federal statutes and regulations. So they should always be fair and practice the FIP principles. U.S. privacy laws. Um, Another is the Children Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPA. So this is for parental permissions before the collection of the children's information below 13 years old. So since they are not capable of controlling, monitoring, and giving um, the or have the authority to decide for themselves, so this act is helping their parents or the security of the child to be protected by the use of parental consent. So, sino ba naman makakapag-protect sa mga anak nila, lalo na tungkol sa mga information? So, their parents. So, there should be always a consent, lalo na kapag underage pa sila and hindi pa nila kaya mag-decide on their own. Then, next is the privacy protection for online consumers. So, what I have searched is the California consumer. Then next is the privacy protection for online consumers. So what I have searched is the California Consumer Privacy Act that I think around 2000 2000s na siya na kameron or itong act na to. So this is the additional legislation to protect online consumer privacy in advertising networks that collect records of consumers who have the activity to develop detailed profiles which are then used by other companies to target online ads. Privacy Act that I think around 2000 2000s na siya na kameron or itong act na to. So this is the additional legislation to protect online consumer privacy in advertising networks that collect records of consumers who have the activity to develop detailed profiles which are then used by other companies to target online ads. So this one, I think one example of this one is parang data sourcing practices of other companies that there are data collectors that will gather various data from different databases or other website uh, websites that have data of these consumers who usually browse online shops and online transactions, which will be used by these businesses to promote their items through call, through email, or through their socials, which by the help of online advertisements. So, as you can see, most of us naman siguro on our socials have these ads. Especially depende if kung ano yung mga activities natin online. Kung paano tayo mag-browse, kung paano yung mga sinesearch natin, ano yung mga hilig natin tingnan, lalo na kapag mayroong mga sale or everything, dyan, nalabas siya. So, this is ang additional legislative na hindi basta-basta magamit yung mga online activities natin or activities ng mga individuals to be the pathway on online ads na lagi na lumalabas sa mga feed nila. Or sila yung matarget ng mga certain ads or promotions na dahil lang sa mga naging activity nila. So, minsan magulat ka, bakit may lumalabas na ganito? Bakit may lumalabas na ganito? So, yun. Minsan nakuha or nakikita yung mga activities, so yung algorithm siguro ay yun yung nagpapalabas ng mga ganong advertisements atin. So, next is Gramm-Leach-Bailey Act of 1999. So, this one naman is for health. No, it's for the financial services naman, which have the most affiliation among banks, securities firms, insurance companies, which include some privacy protection for consumers of financial services. So, any financial services, there should be a privacy protection, lalo na sa mga transactions, sa mga policies. All financial institutions are required to disclose their policies and practices for protecting the privacy of non-public personal information and to allow consumers to opt out the information sharing arrangement with non-affiliated third parties. So, the financial institution should be transparent in disclosing these policies to their consumers for them to know how their data are being protected or being used by these institutions. So, lalo na sa mga private individuals na hindi naman kailangan malaman ng lahat kung ano yung mga naging transaction nila, ano yung balances nila, there should be an option, or there should be uh, freedom for the consumers to opt out the informations that they are sharing. So, kung alam nila kung saan gagamitin, kung paano ma-store yung data nila, and kung paano sila protektahan. So, dapat transparent kasi it's all about financial transactions. And that's very vital information, lalo na sa mga private individuals. Kasi sa mga public individuals or public figures, there are some financial status or financial um, data that are really need to be disclosed to other people, especially if you're running to public office. So there are some information that should be disclosed for them to be transparent to their constituents, to the public, and to other agencies that checking their status, especially their transparency towards their financial capabilities and ownership. So, lastly is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, or HIPAA. So, health insurance portability. So, health means any information regarding health related information such as medical conditions, procedures, and other tests, results, lab results that are being entrusted to health institutions, physicians, and medical persons, which should be limited for them only. So, hindi mo basta-basta pwedeng ma-access. We have a data privacy law that protects the health status of the patient. So, hindi mo siya pwedeng basta-basta makuha, basta-basta i-disclose, hindi mo pwedeng ipamalita, or basta na lang gamitin ng walang consent, lalo na kapag hindi ikaw yung pasyente. Next is the European Directive on Data Protection. So European Commission's Directive on Data Protection have more stringent than United States. So, in the European countries, they do not allow businesses to use personally identifiable information without consumers' prior consent. So, mas mahigpit siya from using the information of the consumer, di gaya ni United States. So, there's a directive requires companies to inform people when they collect information about them and disclose how it will be stored and used. Customers must provide their informed consent before any company can legally use data about them, and they have the right to access the information, correct it, and request it that no further data be collected. So, unlike in the United States and in European countries, there's a directive. The Directive on Data Protection requires the company to inform first the people that there are informations to be collected, and they should disclose when and how it will be stored, when it be collected, and when it where it will be used. Then the customer must provide intent or consent, must provide their informed consent to use their data legally, and they have the right, the information, and correct it, and have the capability to know and request that no further data will be collected. So, what is informed consent ba? Informed consent is defined as the consent given with knowledge of all the facts needed to make a rational decision. So, informed consent, it is basically a consent. You should be informed of the situation, this transaction, and the use of your information for you to be able to have the capability to decide rationally whether to give them the consent or the approval to use it or to collect it or not. So the data collector must disclose whatever they need to disclose, especially their process on how they will use and store your data for you to decide whether you will grant the approval or not. Then, what is safe harbor? A private self-regulating policy that enforcement mechanism that meets the objectives of government regulators and legislation but does not involve government regulation or enforcement. So safe harbor, it is for private individuals or private self-regulating policy. It is not the state to dictate or to be informed. It is not the state or the government uh, responsibility to enforce the safe harbor, but it is for the private individuals that have these mechanisms to be enforced. Example of this one is a business or firm must be certified by the public accounting firms to be safe harbor for personal data on Europeans, that this certification is recognized but not enforced by the Department of Commerce with the safe harbor policy, that Americans and Europeans have been able to overcome their differences on privacy matters and permit trade that take place. Next is the internet challenges to privacy. So there are new challenges for the protection of individual privacy. Internet, as one of our daily companion in our lives, has posed new challenges for the protection of individuals' privacy. Why? Because information sent over network to network may pass through different computer systems before it reaches its final destination. Each of these systems is capable of monitoring, capturing, storing communications, and fast rates. So, kung napapadali yung internet ang buhay natin, so in just one click, oo, mabilis natin napapadala sa kausap natin or sa katransaksyon natin, ng mga gusto nating sabihin or gusto nating details. But before it gets there, there are various networks or other systems it will pass through before the recipient of the data. So, ganun din kadali na magkameron ng mga panibagong challenges or panibagong possibility of problems pwede pagdaanan yung mga data natin. So, it can be monitored, captured, and it can be seen by other websites na hindi mo naman alam na nakikita na nila or nalalaman na nila. So, it is possible to record all online activities of literally 10 of millions of people, including which online groups or files a person has access, which of websites and web pages he or she has visited, and what items that the person has inspected or purchased over the web. So, sa sobrang dali, ibinibigay sa atin ni internet, mas madali na din nakikita yung mga browsing history natin. Though hindi man siya dun sa device na gamit natin, makikita na nag-browse ka sa YouTube, nag-browse ka sa Twitter, sa other platforms na pwede mong i-click. There are certain sites na nakasave kung Sino yung mga taong nag-visit doon? Makikita yung mukha mo doon, yung name mo doon, or yung user mo doon, or something na kung sino nag-view. So, that is not controllable by you clearing your history. Kasi siya is naka-save na or naka-dikit na dun sa website na pinuntahan mo or sa platform na pinuntahan mo na na-record yung naging activity mo doon. So, kapag bumalik ka doon, usually, yun din yung makikita mo. Yun yung last na mga binisit mo, last na tinignan mo, last na chinek mo, last na pinanood mo. Usually, ganun. Why? Because, ganun kagaling si internet. Kaya niyang makita yung activities mo, kaya niyang monitor at bigyan ka ng other options related to what you have searched or what you are into that time. Lalo na sa mga online shops. Makikita mo. Kahit i-clear mo yung search bar mo, usual na makikita mo dyan. As kung ano yung mga recent mo sinerch, recent mo tinignan, yun yung mga deals na lalabas sa'yo. There is also a web retailers that can access, that can use a certain web software or access software that lets them watch the online shopping behavior of individuals and groups while they're visiting a website. So, ganun may makikita. For example, maybe not literally watch what you are uh, clicking, what you are liking, or what you are doing, the way your cursor moves. No. It can be something na makita nila na nag-visit ka ng certain item, nag-add to cart ka ng certain item. Sometimes yung mag-message sa'yo na, ma'am, baka gusto nyo namang i-check out yung may promo tayo ngayon or may discount tayo ngayon or something like that. Paano nila nalaman yun? Kasi nakikita nila on their side. It's just a simple program or a simple attributes of the app or the platform that you are using. Pero it still have the data of your activity on that particular platform. So, minsan may ganon. Websites can learn the identities of their visitors if the visitors voluntarily register at the site to purchase a product or service or to obtain a free service such as information. Websites can also capture information about visitors without their knowledge using their technology. So yeah, so kung gaano ka-convenient si internet, technology, na pagbigay sa atin ng service na isang click mo lang, makahanap mo ng ganito yung ganito. Ganon din yung kadaling makita yung information mo without you knowing it. Especially using this technology called cookies. Cookies, tiny files deposited on a computer hard drive when a user visits certain websites. Cookies identify the visitor's web browser software and track visits the website. So, it is a tiny file deposited on a computer hard drive. So, may makakita ka din accept cookies. So, minsan mag-pop up sila ganun siya. Minsan ay pop up siya, weird, ganan cookies, ganun. So, yun pala, ay deposited sa hard drive mo na ma-identify mo yung kung ano yung naging activity mo or kung ano yung naging visit mo doon sa website mo yun. Without you knowing it. So, when the visitor returns to a site that has stored a cookie, the website software will search the visitor's computer, find the cookie, and know what the person has done in the past. So, malalaman ni cookies kung ano yung ginawa mo the past visit mo dun sa website. Why? Because nasi-save niya yung information mo through the cookies na na-deposit sa hard drive mo. So, kung ano man yung gusto mong balikan that time, or kahit hindi mo na siya gustong balikan, pero doon ka tumigil last visit mo, doon ka dadalhin ni cookies. Or doon ka mostly bibit-bitin ni cookies. So, it may also update the cookie depending on the activity during the visit. In this way, this site can customize the contents of each visitor's index. So, it can customize the cookies deposited on your computer through your website visit. So, every visit mo, ma-customize siya or mabago siya or madadagdagan siya depende sa naging activity mo para mas ma-customize niya or mas ilapit niya sa mga hinahanap mo yung makikita mo sa website. So, kaya pala ah, minsan mo lang to hinanap, minsan mo lang to tingnan, pero since yun yung nakita ni cookies na lagi mo na huli mong binisita, huli mong tinignan, yun na ipapakita niya uli sa'yo sa susunod na bisita. Then, web bugs, tool used by marketers to monitor online behavior. So, one of the subtle and serendipitous tool of surveillance of internet users. So, web bugs used by marketers to monitor the online behavior. So, it is a tiny graphic files embedded in email messages and web pages that are designed to monitor who is reading the email messages or web pages and transmit that information to another computer. Other spyware can secretly install itself on an internet user's computer by piggybacking on larger applications. So, si webbugs, one of the tools that used for surveillance of internet behavior, isa siyang maliit na file, graphic file na nakasama sa mga email messages na monitor kung sino yung tumitingin, sino na ibabasa, bago isasend niya sa ibang computer para mas meron pa siya ng other data collection. Hindi din natin alam. So, gaya ni spyware, meron pa lang na-install. Secretly install, so sure pala decision na siya. Nag-install siya ng sarili niya sa mga computers natin via other larger applications. Makikisabay siya. Calls out the website and send banner ads and other unsolicited materials to the user, also report the user's movements on the internet to other computers. Spyware also can log user keystrokes and send the information to other sites on the web without the user's knowledge. More information is available. So, once nakita ni nakita kay webbugs yung online behavior, magkakameron ng secretly installment si spyware na yun naman yung magsisend to other computers na mag-report, which will call out other websites na magbigay ng banners, ng other promotion, advertisements sa user without them knowing na gano'n pala yun napakalagay sa kanila. Google has been using tools to scan contents of messages received by users of its free web-based email service Gmail. So, si Google, Gmail yung nagpapakulo. It adds that users are seen when they read their emails or related to the subjects of these messages. Google service offers use 1 gigabytes of storage space far more than any of its competitors, but privacy advocates find the practice offensive. So, si Gmail, they using si Google using its tool na nag-scan ng content ng messages, kaya nilang mag-provide ng advertisement relating to the subject ng email na meron ka or binabasa. So, siya na yung bahalang mag-check ng content. Parang uunahan ka na niya. Babasahin mo pala may promotion or may ads na sa'yo relating to the content na binasa. Then, United States allow businesses to gather transaction information generated in a marketplace and then use the information for other marketing purposes without obtaining the informed consent of the individual whose information is being used. So, yan. Si US, nag-allow siya ng business kahit wala siyang informed consent na magamit yung mga information ng individual. So, hindi gaya ng kay Europe na kailangan may informed consent. So, US e-commerce sites are largely content to publish statements of their website informing visitor how about their information will be used. Some have added opt-out selection boxes for these information policy statements in an opt policy statements. So, since different si US at saka si Europe ng policies regarding privacy ng data collected, si US kasi wala siyang nagagamit na yung mga information for marketing purposes without the informed consent na meron si European. So, ang meron lang si US is si opt-out and opt-in. Parang meron siyang checkboxes or option na whether to opt-out or to opt-in. So, si opt-out is a model of informed consent. So, parang model of ano naman siya, parang informed consent lang siya. But there are two different kinds. Model of informed consent permits the collection of personal information until the consumer specifically requests that the data not be collected. So, si opt-out, informed consent siya na binibigyan ng permiso na makolekta yung personal information ni consumer. Lalo na pag nag-request siya na wag collect. So they have the option not to collect their data. Then opt-in, model informed consent, which a business is prohibited from collecting any information unless the consumer specifically takes action to approve information collection use. So si opt-in ay informed content naman for business na hindi nila basta-basta pwede makolekta yung information ni consumer, lalo na kapag hindi nagtitake ng action si consumer na i-approve yung pagkolekta nila. So, wala silang dapat kolektahin or hindi sila legally. Next, the online industry has preferred self-regulation to privacy legislation for protecting consumers. So, in 1998, the online industry formed the Online Privacy Alliance to encourage self-regulation to develop a set of privacy guidelines for its members. The group promotes the use of online sales, such as that of trustees certifying websites adhering to certain privacy principles. So there's also a network advertising initiative, NAI, wherein it is a new industry association founded by participants in the advertising network sector, including Google DoubleClick, wherein it develops its own privacy policies to help consumers opt out of advertising network programs and provide consumers redress from abuses. So there are privacy policies that are implemented by the states, but there's also an initiative from the association or a certain sector wherein it is founded to have their own policy principles to help their consumers to opt out the advertising network programs that are disturbing their activities online. So we have the Yahoo, Mozilla Foundation, Microsoft, and Google Double. Next is the technical solutions. So there's a platform for privacy preferences, also known as P3P, enables automatic communication of privacy policies between e-commerce sites and its visitors. So P3P select the level of privacy they wish to maintain when interacting with the website. So it allows the websites to publish privacy policies in form that computers can understand. And once it is codified according to P3P rules, the privacy policies become part of the software for individual web pages. These tools are used for encrypting emails, for making email or surfing activities appear anonymous, for preventing client computers from accepting cookies, and for detecting and eliminating spyware. So there are several technical solutions. And one example of this is Platform for Privacy Preference, or PPP.
Next is property rights, intellectual property. So technology or information system challenges the protection towards intellectual properties. Intellectual property considered to be the intangible property created by individuals or corporations. Information technology has made it difficult to protect intellectual property because computerized information can be so easily copied or distributed on networks. So intellectual property are subject to three legal protection of property rights. First is the trade secret. Any intellectual work, product, a formula, device, pattern, or compilation of data used for a business purpose. Provided it is not based on information in the public domain. So this law protects the actual ideas in the work product, not only their manifestation. Companies bind employees and customers with non-disclosure agreement to prevent secret from falling into the public domain. Limitation nito is difficult to protect from falling to public domain when the software is widely distributed. So kahit meron siyang protection, kung widely distributed naman siya, hindi mo siya makokontrol na hindi siya lulusot at lulusot na magamit din ng iba. Second is copyright. Is a statutory grant that protects creators of intellectual property from having their work copied by other for any purpose during the life of the author plus an additional 70 years after the author's death. Then 95 years for corporation. The intent behind copyright is to encourage creativity and authorship by ensuring that creative people receive the financial and other benefits of their work. Next is patent and grants the owner an exclusive monopoly on the ideas behind an invention for 20 years. The difficulty is passing stringent criteria of non-obviousness, originality, and novelty, as well as years of waiting to receive the protection. It is one example of this is inventions of new machines, devices, or methods receive the full financial and other rewards of their labors. Next, challenges to intellectual property rights. So, there are also challenges for this right. First is making theft easy and difficulties in establishing uniqueness. More than one-third of the software worldwide was counterfeited or pirated. So there's a possibility talaga na kahit protektahan mo siya, meron pa rin mapipirata or makokopya. Then information can be illicitly copied or distributed through other systems and network even though these parties do not willingly participate in the infringement. File sharing networks that intentionally profited from illegal distribution of music could be held liable for their actions. 27% of internet users report downloading music from illegal sites. So one of the example nito nga is yung pagda-download ng mga music. So meron tayong mga authorized music sites na doon dapat na-distribute or na-download yung mga music na to. Kaso dahil sa panahon ngayon, mabilis na yung pagsalin-salin ng mga information, data, files, kahit saan pwede mo na siya makuha free sa halip na magbayad ka pa. So, merong mga sites talaga na malulugi or mga businesses na malulugi if meron pa din nakakalusot na ganun. Next is control, liability, and accountability. Who is responsible or accountable for the problems, damages caused by information system? So one example of this is the disruption of email by research in motion for 1 week. So millions of BlackBerry users were affected, unable to communicate using BlackBerry during the outrage. RIM's redundant service also failed. Failover did not perform as intended. The maker of the program and the operator may be accountable for the damages. So usually, kung sino maker or yung operator, sila yung nagiging accountable kasi sila yung nagme-maintain or creator ng mismong system. Next, system quality, system errors, and data quality. So, what is an acceptable technological or feasible level of system quality? What point should the system manager say, stop testing, we've done all we can to perfect the software, shift it? The gray area is that some system errors are foreseeable and correctable only at the very great expense. An expense so great that pursuing the level of perfection is not feasible economically, no one could afford the product. So, hanggat nakikita naman yung mga flaws ng system during the development nito, pero hanggat nakikita mo yung mali, tapos aayusin mo na aayusin, costly siya, then eventually hindi na din siya magiging economically friendly, lalo na kung ang consumer mo or ang target na mag-a-avail nito is hindi na kaya yung cost na bit-bit nung pag-maintain nung system na yun. So, hindi mo agad masasabi kung kailan ba perfect na siya for distribution. Then, 3 principal sources of poor system performance: software bugs and errors, hardware or facility failures caused by natural or other causes, and poor input data quality. Next is equity, access, and boundaries in quality of life. So, aside from benefits, computer and information system can destroy valuable elements of culture and society. These negative consequences can be extremely harmful to individuals, societies, and political institutions. First one is balancing power, center versus periphery. Computer age was huge, centralized manufacturing computers world centralized power at corporate headquarters. Shift towards highly decentralization coupled with ideology of empowerment of thousands of works. Lower organizational levels have reduced the fear of power. Centralization in institutions, lower level employees makes minor decisions. Next, rapidity of change, reduced response time to competition. The marketplace reduced buffers, normal social buffers that permitted businesses years to adjust with competition. There's a risk of developing just-in-time society and just-in-time jobs. Next, maintaining boundaries, family, work, and leisure. So the do anything anywhere affect the boundaries between work time and quality time with our loved ones. Doing activities outside work or internet, it is weekend. More people work beyond 8 hours and spend their time with technology. And its extensive use takes away the people from their family and friends, including children being exposed to gadgets at an early age. Spending time with family and friends serves as balance points in society by preserving private life, providing this is a place to collect thoughts and think in ways contrary to their employees' dreams. So, sobrang pag-expose natin or nasasanay na tayo na kasama natin yung technology everyday, halos everyday, yung boundaries natin, minsan hindi na natin na-monitor, hindi na natin na-maintain. So, minsan lumalagpas yung allowable time lang natin or yung dapat na oras na nasa work lang tayo or nasa harap ng screen sa dapat nandun ka na sa labas kasama ng pamilya mo or other activities away from technology. Next is dependence and vulnerability. Various institutions in the society depends on systems such as schools, companies, church, government, etc., which results to high vulnerability when the system fails. Data stored, real-time transactions, and other information may be damaged, destroyed, and and has a possibility that no backup copy other than the system being listed. So, sobrang dependence natin sa technology or other softwares which walang physical copy or walang physical storage, minsan mas nagiging vulnerable yung data natin kapag wala na tayong mapuntahan dahil nandun na lang yung dependence natin. So, wala na tayong backup plan if ever na mag-crash siya or magkameron ng problem yung system. Next is computer crime and abuse. If technology contributes easy access and usage of tools and platforms to make our life easy, it can also be easy to commit illegal, harmful, and other omission of acts that are not beneficial to the user. So first is the computer crime, the commission of illegal acts through the use of computer or against a computer system. Or, for example, it destroys company databases, export unauthorized information, or access those information to do harm. Next is computer abuse, the commission of acts involving a computer that may not be illegal but that are considered unethical. So, example nito is spamming, which is a junk email sent by an organization or individual to a mass audience of internet users who have expressed no interest in the product or services being marketed. Spam are less cost to send thousands of messages. May include pornography, fraudulent deals, services, and etc. So, ito yung mga dumadating sa ating mga emails na hindi naman natin gusto, hindi tayo interesado, pero dating sa inbox natin. So, naka-filter naman siya gaya ng sa email, sa Gmail, na meron talaga siyang section for spam emails, which are emails na unwanted or hindi mo transaction. Next is employment trickle-down technology and re-engineering jobs. So redesigning business processes could potentially cause millions of mid-level managers and clerical workers to lose their job. Some economists believe that educated workers from re-engineered jobs will result in this to more better job, lose those unskilled blue collar workers and other old workers from the are missing from the equation because it is not clear these groups can be easily trained for higher quality paying jobs. Next is equity and access, increasing racial and social class cleavages. Does everyone have an equal opportunity to participate in the digital age? The impact of systems, technology, or in our various groups in the society. Certain ethnic groups are less likely to have access in computer or internet. High income families have home computers and internet access than lower income families, and some groups are unable or not privileged enough to cope up with the technology today, with results to digital divide, which refers to the gap between those who have access to technology and the internet and those who do not. So, meron at meron pa rin naiiwan through these days. Lastly is the health risk, RSI, CVS, and techno-stress. So, in every benefit, meron din siyang parang expense. So, ito yung kapag nasobrahan na or hindi na natin titingnan yung physical status natin sa sobrang inclined natin sa technology, meron at meron tayong nararamdaman na mga pain or other expense natin sa physical attributes natin. So, repetitive stress injury, RSI, occurs when muscle groups are forced through repetitive action, often with high impact loads such as tennis or tens of thousands of repetitions under low impact loads such as working at a computer keyboard. So, hindi lang tayo mai-injured kapag massive or malalaki yung mga galaw natin or yung activity natin. So, gaya ng example dito, there's a low impact loads wherein kahit sa pag-work natin through a computer keyboard, makakaramdam tayo ng injury, lalo na sa mga kamay sa wrist natin. So, lalo na yung mga keyboard warrior na everyday or maya't maya, yung activity nila sa mga keyboards nila is mabilis, then everyday yun yung activity nila, kahit pasanay na sila, makakaramdam yan ng pagod or nangalay. One example of this is carpal tunnel syndrome, which is CTS, most common kind of RSI, which is a pressure on the median nerve through the wrist bony structure called carpal tunnel produce pain. The pressure is caused by constant repetition of keystrokes. Kahit na expert na tayo or familiar na yung muscles natin sa ganitong activity, hanggat hindi mo siya pinapahinga or binibigyan ng pause sa activity na yon, makakaramdam siya ng sakit or nangalay, lalo na sa mga wrist natin. Kaya minsan siguro after ng activities natin sa mga keyboard or other gadgets natin, makakaramdam tayo ng ngalay sa kamay na parang wala ka namang mabigat na ginawa pero parang may masakit sa kamay mo, ganun. Then, RSI is avoidable by ensuring that the workstations are designed properly and ergonomically, and it should be supported by frequent rest breaks. Pain caused by occupational illness are not limited to back, neck pain, leg stress, and foot pain, but it can also be felt via CVS. So, CVS, computer vision syndrome, refers to any eye strain condition related to computer display screen use. Its symptoms includes temporary headache, blurred vision, dry and irritated eyes. So, in vision, excessive exposure to screen, it is recommended to rest eyes 15 minutes after 2 hours of computer use, every 20 minutes of viewing look into the distance for 20 seconds for refocus. So, pati yung mata natin nakakaramdam din ng pagod. So, yung exposure niya sa screen na matagal, lalo na kapag matataas yung brightness, makakaramdam tayo ng sakit sa ulo, blurred vision, dry, irritated eyes. So, hindi man siya pangmatagalan, pero panaka-naka, makakaramdam ka ng ganito. Hindi man siya sabay-sabay, pero kahit isa dyan, makakaramdam ka. So, it is CVS daw. Then next is technostress is the newest computer-related malady. This stress induced by computer use. The symptoms include aggravation, hostility towards humans, impatience, and fatigue. So, it tends to expect human behavior. It tends to expect human like computers, behave like computers, respond fast like computers, and that they have the absence of emotion. So, kapag nakakaranas daw ng techno-stress, lalo na yung super inclined sa technology na yun at yun na yung ginagawa nila, parang buong araw nila doon na spend, yung stress nila na e-expect nila yung ibang tao sa paligid nila na parang computer na din, na nagiging mainipin sila, na parang ini-expect nila na yung kausap nila and physically or away from their screen ay magre-respond na parang computer. Isang tanong mo lang, isang hingi mo lang, magre-respond na siya. And parang kung minsan, kapag nasobrahan nga, parang ang pakikitungo mo din sa iba, and expect mo na para rin silang computer na wala silang nararamdaman. And hindi sila ma-offend if anong ways or anong word yung gagamitin mo sa kanila. Kasi ang pakiramdam mo or ang tingin mo na dahil techno-stress ka, parang computer na lang din sila na mainipin ka or maubusan ka man ng pasensya, wala silang pakialam, parang wala silang nararamdaman, parang computer. So, that's why computer-related jobs is one of the top list stressful occupation based on health statistics. So overall, the computer has become a crucial part of our lives, and it's hard to imagine a world without these technologies. Yan lang po.